Said, I guess I'm going to have to go somewhere else.
So finally, Mr. Bellman makes arrangements for him to go to Gulf Hills. He rented a villa there along the bayou front, but then a house, he wanted a house that was more private than a public villa where other people were staying, so he rented a family-owned house.
I got him a house out there at Gulf Hills, and that's how he wound up at Gulf Hills.
He leased the house for the summer, the Hack, H-A-C-K, the Hack House. The reason Elvis had so much privacy in Gulf Hills was because the roads are curved and winding, and you come to a fork in the road or a crossroad, and you can make the wrong little fork and you're completely in a different area, and that's why people didn't go looking for Elvis at Gulf Hills, because it was so easy to get lost. And that's where we would come and go from. Well, the rest of June and July.
So I asked Elvis, would he mind making a 5-minute appearance at my shoe department? I had a ladies' shoe department and a ladies' wear store. And he said, well, how about tomorrow? So I told the man that owned the store that I was leasing the department from, I said, Elvis could come by tomorrow and make an appearance here. Would you like for him to come by? Definitely, definitely, he said. He said, are you sure he's coming? He says, I want to call up all the TV stations around the area and all the radio stations and let them know about that. People started calling from Mobile and Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans, Memphis. And said, is Elvis really coming down there? People started pouring in down here from all directions. When they saw that pink Cadillac, they knew Elvis was here. So that's the reason why I had to take him in my car, because they were crowded all around the building, all over the street, and I made him lie down, sort of, and we kind of slipped in the back door pretty good without people knowing it. They had the whole police department out there directing traffic, and they had to let him in and shift. They liked to tore the man's store up, but he didn't mind that. He got so much good publicity, he didn't mind that at all. The man that owned the store that I leased the department from, he said, let's give Elvis a present. I said, that's not necessary. I said, he's doing this because I took him on a couple of fishing trips. And I said, he's not expecting it. He said, let's give him something anyway. He said, you go ahead and make arrangements. I said, well, if you want to give him something, I said, let's give him a shotgun. I got a 410 gauge Winchester pump. Fine little gun. We presented that to Elvis, and boy, he was just as happy as a child eating ice cream.
Elvis really liked guns. A lot of people collect guns, and it was no different from other people. He had a fascination for weapons, and he would collect them and have fun with them. We'd go out target shooting, you know, and stuff like that.
I brought some skeet targets out to Gulf Hills, and I brought my little 28 gauge Remington automatic, which was my favorite gun. It had a little bit more spread to it than the 410 gauge that I gave Elvis, so I let him shoot my 28 gauge so he'd have a better chance at hitting the targets, you see. And he did pretty good. He missed a few, but he hit a little more than he missed. And he let his friends shoot and all that. We just had a ball. Later on, we get back to the house and lounging around, and somebody brought a BB gun up there. And everybody started shooting the BB gun, and even Elvis. He held a cigarette paper in his hand like that to let somebody shoot with the BB gun to shoot the paper out of his hand. He did, that's a fact. And luckily the guy didn't hit his thumb.
Elvis, he had gotten in a big box of souvenirs that Colonel Parker used to peddle at his personal appearance tours, and he reached in and took out this pink scarf. I'm surprised it's not falling apart. It's been quite a few years. He took one out of the box and draped it around my neck and pretended to be strangling me with it. I don't know why I kept it all these years, but I'm glad I did.
You know, it don't take long to get sunburned out here if you're not accustomed to it. And if you're fair-skinned like he was sort of fair-skinned.
He got very sunburned. He peeled about 3 layers of skin.
It did take effect on him.
Later on in the film, you'll see Elvis on water skis, and the reason he's wearing a long-sleeve shirt and long pants is because he was so sunburned, he couldn't let any more sun touch his skin. He peeled gobs.
He was skiing out at Gulf Hills, and he had a shirt on and a life jacket because of that, because he had gotten sunburned.
The most asked question that I've ever been asked was Elvis a good kisser? And it was mostly from young teenage girls and by letter. And I used to answer a lot of this fan mail. And you had to be careful when you're writing back to a 12 or 13-year-old. How do you describe a passionate kiss to a 13-year-old without having their mothers go through the roof, you know? So I'd give it a lot of thought, and I said his kisses were perfect. They weren't too dry, they weren't too wet, they weren't too sloppy or anything like that, you know, with lips slightly parted. And that was not true. They weren't slightly parted. Elvis probably sucked half my face off. But I was careful when I would write to these kids. But he was a marvelous kisser. Elvis had real soft, full lips. He said I was a good kisser. He wanted to know, where did I learn how to kiss? And I said, I didn't know that kissing needed lessons, you know. And I said, I think I'm learning right here from you. The second most asked question was, did you go to bed with him? I didn't answer that one. It's funny because back in 1955, things were different than they are today. You know, there were only a few bad girls in the whole school, you know, if you know what I'm talking about. Elvis and I had gone for a ride just to get out of the house. It was late in the night when he was a night traveler. And we just took a ride. His mom had made some cookies, and we took a bag of cookies with us and had forgotten about the cookies until we were on our way back home. And he came upon a milk truck that was making home deliveries, and he said milk would really go good with these cookies, so he pulled up behind the milk truck and got out and asked the milkman for a quart of milk. And he reached in his pockets, and Elvis never had any money on him. And he said, I don't have any money on me, can I write you an IOU? And I think that I read somewhere that this milk delivery man still has this piece of paper with IOU, 1 quart of milk, Elvis Presley. But we drank the milk right out of the bottle and had milk mustaches. Yeah. He had his cookies and, wait, he had his milk and his cookies too. And ate them. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it. Well, he did.
So let's see what happened next. It also took film of June when Elvis was lying on the floor. She was picking blackheads off him. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But you know, we all